Have a quick chat with a freelance journalist who's called into the show. Phil McGillivan is over in Ireland. He's got a view on this. Good evening, Phil. Thanks for your time.
Not at all, mate. Not at all. Thanks for taking the call.
What do you want to say?
Yeah, I think I just heard this being told by a friend. I've been working on the sort of referee story for a few weeks. I'm just back from Glasgow on a research trip. I spoke to a lot of people there. I broke the story on the Hugh Dallas email thing, story which you may be aware of. Basically, the Scottish Football Association at referee level is in crisis. It's badly run. And they're not fit for purpose, to use a term coined by the Celtic chairman when he was Home Secretary, Dr. John Reid. This could be a massive own goal if this was a prolonged strike, if it did go on, because they'd have to bring in other referees from other countries, perhaps, maybe from down in your country. And it is, you'll know David Hay, who was a great player for Celtic, manager of Celtic and a player down in England. He said 20 years ago, if it was up to him, he would take Celtic out of the league and down to England. And Billy McNeill, the Lisbon Lion, the captain that lifted the European Cup, said that Celtic had been on the receiving end of refereeing bias for 50 years. So if they're going to go on strike because they're now getting criticism, mainly from a Celtic supporter that will no longer sit at the back of the bus, as John Reid said at the AGM where I was as a shareholder, those days are gone. You've actually got a bit of a rebellion going on in Scotland, and I'm glad you're covering it.
Well, it's intriguing. I mean, if it's going to bring up the Celtic and Rangers coming out of the league debate again...
No, it's not Celtic and Rangers coming out of the league,
just
it's Celtic coming out of the league.
Well, what about I just mentioned about the idea of county referees being promoted? If the Scottish authorities can't bring in refs from, let's say, Scandinavia, just to give an example,
sure,
they might have to delve down to those referees who normally watch, ref games with Stenhousemuir or Alloa.
It's not about an organised conspiracy against Celtic. It's about a cultural bias against Celtic. I mean, last week a man was put in his resting place, and may he rest in peace, Jim Farry. But in 1998, when he was the top guy in the SFA, and it was found out in a court of inquiry that he held back a Celtic player's registration, right, to hinder Celtic and ipso facto help Rangers. Now, he paid for that with his job because the Celtic chairman at the time was a North American businessman who wasn't slow to go to law. Right? So what you've got here is a build-up of evidence and a build-up of steam now by a Celtic support driving forward, an increasingly educated Celtic support, driving forward the club to say, we won't take this anymore. And the referees and the authorities are kicking back at this. That's the story for us as journalists. You broadcast, me print. That's the story, and it's a massive own goal. I hope that the strike does go ahead, because it's a massive own goal on the behalf of people who really should have been brought to task by journalists in Scotland about their behaviour a long time ago, in my opinion.
Appreciate your thoughts, Phil. Thanks for your call. A huge can of worms is being opened here, and it's going to unravel, and it's going to have layer after layer like an onion.